Hey guys, what's going on? It is Ash here, and today I am joined by none other than the Rumham of Twitch fame. Rumham, what's going on, man?
How's it going, Ash? Happy to be on the channel.
I'm happy to have you here. Definitely one of the most knowledgeable Royale players who I know. So I asked you to come on because there's some balance changes coming, and you're so tuned into the stats and top players, trends, and everything else as far as strategy and meta strategy go. So I thought you could kind of give us your take, and maybe we'll chat a little bit about each of these balance changes. Sound good?
I'm so excited. Of all the balance changes I've seen come out of the last few months, this is the most impactful, especially I think to tournament play. This is an incredible set of changes. Let's talk about them. Yeah,
let's do it. Yeah, because you're right. You kind of hit on it there, but the tournament play aspect is a lot of these do affect tournament standard, matchups and counters. So let's hopping in. I guess probably the if not the biggest balance change, definitely will evoke the most reaction, and that's to the Hog Rider. It's a damage decrease by 6%. What's your take?
Actually, I'm pretty optimistic about skilled Hog Riders still being present in the scene. I like the nerf. I mean, Hog Rider has certainly been around forever, but 6% is like half of one level. So if you have like a level 8 Hog Rider, it's only like having a level 7.5 Hog Rider now, which isn't, the end of the world.
It's true. These percentages, even though they're small numbers, sometimes they can have a real dramatic impact, but the Hog Rider might be an exception to that in a lot of ways. I kind of agree with you there, because how often is it where, your Hog Rider is going to get a hit on a tower and, he only needs half a hit at most, or 2 hits. I don't think it's going to really change a ton, as you said, especially with skilled Hog Rider players. I think they'll still see a lot of action in the game.
Yeah, it's one of those things where when you think of like the best case scenario of a Hog Rider, like you get the freeze down, or you zap whatever they were going to play. I don't think you're going to feel the 6% at all. It's still going to be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hits are going to do most of the tower's damage. I think what this is really going to hurt is the players who aren't that good with Hog Rider and are only eking out like 1 attack per push.
Yeah, get 1 or 2 hits. Yeah, I agree with you there. So, yeah, I do think you'll still see a lot of Hog Rider play. Probably still be one of the most popular cards in the game. I'm with you there. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, I think to put a finer point on it, those players are normally going to find themselves like 500 damage from victory, and they just use maybe like 2 fireballs or something to finish it off. But now with that 6%, it's going to make those people really feel it. Now they're 700 damage away or something, and they don't have that option to finish it off lazily with direct damage spells. So I think
true.
We'll see.
Yeah, the headline is definitely Hog Rider nerf, but I'm kind of with you. I don't think it's going to be as dramatic as some people might assume on first glance. So moving on to the Prince, damage increased by 9%. I think this is pretty big. Your thoughts?
This is insane. Like Prince is already coming back into the meta because Prince is so good against Royal Giants and Hog Riders as a defensive play that counterattacks. This actually puts Prince's damage to kill equal leveled barbarians. So like at the tournament cap, a Prince will now 2-hit barbarians, or a single charge will kill a full health barbarian.
Absolutely, yeah. I was going to mention that same thing, but I think that Prince will definitely see, and like you said, it seems like it's already kind of entering in a little bit here and there. I'm sure the percentage, my guess would be, is a little bit up from previous, from a month ago, and now I think it's probably going to skyrocket. See some of those 2 Prince decks start, re-emerging in the top 100 maybe.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the key things that made the OP deck OP back when there was only level 12 commons, was that level 8 Princes and P.E.K.K.A.s would 1-hit or 2-hit barbarians, and now even though there are level 13 barbarians now, and that hasn't been true, it will be true again, and we'll have to see how much that makes the Prince deck come back.
Absolutely. Moving on, speaking of the P.E.K.K.A damage increased by 8%. For me, it's kind of the same as Prince. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we've actually seen a huge decrease in P.E.K.K.A recently. Everyone seems to be favoring the sort of Golem Poison. We've seen some Lava Hound decks. I really like this because P.E.K.K.A feels, I think, fine one-hitting a Barbarian, and that might be the difference between it being a viable tank at tournament play and not.
Yeah, I agree with you. I've never been a huge P.E.K.K.A player myself, but maybe, hey, if you have to think about it, if it's noticeable, definitely getting to a tower with 8% of whatever the heck the 1000 DPS it is should be significant. But moving on, Goblin Barrel, Goblin spawn time decreased to 1 second from 1.2 second. That's the time that the Goblins spawn after the Goblin Barrel hits. Thoughts?
This is probably a sneaky good buff. All it really does is close the window for which a player can like arrow or fireball their own tower to totally avoid the damage, right? So we've all done that thing where you arrow the ground, the barrel lands, and then the arrows hit. If you've noticed, there's been a few times where the goblins just kind of sit there for a second, and you're kind of like, oh, I guess I got out of it. I lucked out. I didn't take any damage. Well, now in those moments, you'll have taken like 500 damage, one swing of goblin attacks. Because they attack instantly.
Yeah, you nailed it there. I don't think it's necessarily about a buff more so than just helping it out versus arrows. Because if your opponent has arrows and you have a Goblin Barrel, I mean, the entire match is just about trying to time that Goblin Barrel perfectly. And half the time, that's not even the opportune time to do the Goblin Barrel. But will be interesting to see if it brings more Goblin Barrel action into the game. X-bow. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just saying, it just forces more skill out of the counter, out of your opponent's side of the board.
Yeah.
So it's going to make those sort of arrow bait decks, I guess, a little more punishing to play against, but we'll see. It's hard to say what a fifth of a second is.
Yeah, it's one of those things you definitely have to kind of see in game to get a true feel for. But moving on to X-bow, deploy time decreased to 4 seconds from 5 seconds. Hit points increased by 18%. Thoughts?
Ooh,
are you an X-bow player?
I don't want to say I like X-bow. I like siege decks. I'm a big fan of siege decks. So I want to see siege decks viable in the metagame. I don't know if this is enough to bring back X-bow, but I like that they added a lot of hit points to it. It's a very slow card with the deploy time. It's a very fragile card in general. That I just like that it can sustain a little bit more punishment, because something as simple as spear goblins would often counter it.
Yeah, agreed. I've never been an X-bow player, not because of the hate, but just because, unlike you, I'm not a huge siege player. I kind of like cycle very fast-moving offensive decks, but either way, it'll be interesting to see. Mortar, same kind of a deal here. Deploy time decreased to 4 seconds from 5. I think it just helped balancing out the siege again, just allowing Mortar and X-bow to actually be, dabbled in again. It's virtually been extinct since the last balance update. I'm actually a lot more optimistic about Mortar. Mortar has already seen a decent amount of tournament play. There's a player in the Super Magical Cup, which is a tournament that I co-host or co-cast on Twitch as well. There's a player who has top 4'd several events playing Mortar decks. Really?
So Mortar's
right now?
Yeah, he's really good. He's one of the best mechanical players I've seen. He plays Mortar, like a Mortar Rocket, Cannon, Inferno Tower, like, a siege deck, right? And he's already been doing really well with it. I've played it on the ladder in like the 4,000 plus trophy meta, and it's actually pretty good because you have so many defensive towers. You're strong against Royal Giant and Hog Rider.
Yeah.
So I think the 4 second deploy time will actually, I don't know. I can't exactly put a finger on it. It's like it makes Mortar a little more forgiving, and I think that will be good.
Yeah, I think thousands of people just tuned out. They're raging already. But no, I definitely think that Mortar and X-bow, although I don't personally prefer them, I think that they definitely should have a place in the game at some point of some usage. So
sure. Keep in mind, this Mortar is still worse than the old Mortar that everyone raged about, because the 10% damage nerf still stays, and the deploy time is still larger, 4 seconds, than it was before at 3 seconds.
Yeah.
So I think the goal is really just to make Mortar a fair card, because if you don't have X-bow and Mortar in the metagame, the meta we have right now is kind of what you see. Everyone is playing these like double collector golem decks, or these very like countery triangle defense like Hog Rider Valkyrie decks, because there's nothing that's forcing the control decks to come out of their comfort zone. Everyone can just sit back and play things behind their king tower because nothing's forcing them to like suddenly attack right now.
Yeah.
And that's what I like Mortar and X-bow for.
That's a good point. Very good point. That's why I had you on. Bring in the heat here. So we'll move on to the Furnace lifetime increase to 50 seconds from 40 seconds. I think that's pretty self-explanatory there. Just a little buff to Furnace. Are you a big fan of Furnace and Fire Spirits in general?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of, I want spawner decks to be better than they are. For as long as I've played the game, I've really been fascinated with, Goblin Hut and Barbarian Hut, but the spawner decks have just never felt very good at high-level play, so I like that they're tinkering with Furnace to get it there. I've played Furnace with, like, Royal Giant and other sort of decks where I might play, like, a Goblin Hut instead. The biggest thing that is unfortunate about fire spirits is they don't build up. Like when they blow up, they're just gone, as opposed to the goblins that kind of build up behind your tanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I don't know.
I love fire spirits, and I've done the same same as you with the furnace. I've tested it, and it's weird because you can have moments of great success with it. When it hits that minion horde or something inadvertently that your opponent didn't catch, then it's awesome. But then sometimes you're just like, oh my god, that furnace was a total waste. So I don't know. It will be interesting to see, but I'm with you 100%. I love spawner decks. Like right when the game first came out, I'm not sure if they were just stronger or if people just didn't know what they're doing as far as countering as well.
Sure.
It might be the latter, but either way, I love spawner decks, and I'm with you. I hope they have a new place in the game moving forward. Guards, what are your thoughts on the guard? I mean, they removed the pushback effect when their shield breaks, so do you think that's going to be enough?
It's hard to say what, man, it's hard to say what enough is, you know what I mean? I think a lot of players, myself included, don't actually have their guards caught up to all the rest of the cards because it's an epic that was released like a month ago. So it's hard to say like exactly what, but the coolest thing about guards, they're a really good defensive troop. Their big weakness was the counter-attacking pushing. And I do think the pushback effect had something to do with it. I just can't right now like quantify what the difference is. But if that allows you to play guards on defense against something like Hog, and then on the counter-attack with no disruption, they deal like several hundred damage to a tower, they become a pretty threatening defensive card, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that if to me, it almost seems like guards should cost 2 elixir right now, as they are right now, not talking about pre-pushback, because right now it just always feels to me like you can just get more value out of a princess or, ice wizard or another 3-cost card, even not necessarily legendary cards, but, I would always find something, I'd rather have arrows than guards here, whatever it may be, even goblins or something, so I hope this will make them a little bit more viable. I think mine are a little bit under-leveled, but I could use them if I wanted to. I think they're just one level behind, so I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
They're startlingly good against the things they're good against. You know what I mean? Like, they're actually really good against just like a naked hog rider. They're really good against mini P.E.K.K.A.s and big P.E.K.K.A.s and princes and things like that, but they're shockingly bad against a lot of really common things like barbarians and Valkyrie, especially. Valkyrie just chops them up.
Yeah.
Like in 2 swings. It's terrible.
Yeah, maybe this will be the little bump it needs to just see a little bit more love out there. We'll have to see, though. So the witch damage increased by 17%. This is after she just got a buff last balance update. It looks like they're really trying to give the witch some love, just the wrong game. I want to see witch love in Clash of Clans, but no, I'm just joking. Damage increase, I mean, this is pretty big, 17%.
This is a meta-changing change. If your store is selling witches today, go buy as many as you can. Witch has become a premier card in Clash Royale. I'm calling it right now.
All right. Well, we'll have to see how it plays out. I mean, the buff is obviously pretty self-explanatory. You're already seeing people playing witches. Well, they didn't play witches at all before in the top like 100 or legendary arena. Now you're starting to see people use her. Now you're probably going to be right, man. It's going to skyrocket, at least at first, while people try to see how strong she really is.
The 2 huge interactions that change is that I believe she's going to 3-hit or 4-hit minion hordes, where it used to be 1 more. I'm forgetting off the top of my head, but it was like, I believe she's going to 3-hit minion horde now, where she used to 4-hit it. And that is, it happens so fast, she attacks so quickly, that she becomes a very reasonable counter, maybe instead of zap, to minion hordes coming at you. Also, she went from 12 hitting a squad of barbarians to 10 hitting a squad of barbarians. Now, between the tower and her skeletons, she becomes a sort of wizard-like play on defense against barbarians, where the tower's shooting, the skeletons are kind of attacking and wasting their time, and then she does a lot of damage, that you might be able to start playing witch on defense against a lot of really common attacks, and then counterattack with some sort of tank in front of the witch.
So it sounds like you're saying that the witch might even have a place in different types of decks as far as like meta strategy goes. Like, you could probably use her, I'm not sure if you could use her really in a cycle deck, but pretty much anything else, it seems like she'd be a good fit because of her versatility now defensively, like you mentioned. Do you agree?
I think anyone who's playing wizard, ice wizard, maybe even a princess could start to reevaluate if maybe witch would make more sense in that spot.
Very interesting. Well, I can't wait to see. I'm going to try her out for sure. Moving on, Lava Hound. Damage increased by 28%. Well, I've tried out the Lava Hound a little bit. I'm not sure if you have. I'm sure you have.
Love
And you know what, the one thing about the Lava Hound that does happen to me here and there is the Lava Hound makes it all the way to the tower, and for whatever reason I've had to reinvest some of my resources to defending the other lane or something, and then my Lava Hound's there for literally like, 20 seconds in the match not doing any damage. So I think it might help in those situations. Other than that, I think Lava Hound's definitely a viable option now, especially in Legendary Arena and above. Your thoughts?
Yeah, actually, we had a Lava Hound balloon deck get to the top 4 of the Super Magical Cup last week. It's Lava Hound's it's a pretty strong card. If you play it pretty much like a Golem deck plays, it's pretty reasonable. The big downside of the card is that if you can't follow it up, people have found out that you can just let it attack their tower, and it only does like 20-25% damage over the course of its whole lifetime. Or worst case, they just put a cannon in the lane, and then the Lava Hound attacks the cannon and actually does less damage to the cannon than the tower does to the Lava Hound. So it's sitting there, and your tower's burning down the Hound while your cannon's just sitting there tanking for it. It's the worst.
That's not what you want.
Yeah, so I like that the Lava Hound, at least now with a 28% damage buff, is relatively burning down cannons, and then if you ignore it on your tower, it's something a little more threatening, like 30 or 33% damage, which is fair for a 7 elixir card.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It should be doing a little bit something at least. 28% isn't a ton, as big as it seems because it's already so low. But hopefully now it will have that. Make someone at least think about it defensively now when it's sitting there. Skeletons is the next one. It reduced the spawn from 4 to 3. This is pretty big for the skeleton card. Pretty big nerf. What do you think?
Yeah, this is going to make people everywhere reevaluate decks. I mean, this is huge, right? Like, this is what indirectly gets better from this? Musketeer, Mini P.E.K.K.A, Princes, which already got a huge buff, P.E.K.K.A, which already got a huge buff. Like, anything that has a big single target attack just got better because Skeletons is now 3. Every Elixir Collector or Cycle deck that runs Skeletons in order to get back to their key cards is worse, like significantly worse, because, I mean, think about how, like, a single squad of Skeletons stops Mini P.E.K.K.A or especially Musketeer. What if every single time that happened, now you took 400 damage instead?
Oh yeah, it's big. Anything single targeting is definitely, this is definitely a buff to them, It's gonna be interesting. It's an indirect buff to Witch because now she's making more Skeletons. It's a big indirect buff to Guards, which now had their main competition. Like, Guards look a lot better now than Skeletons in comparison. Yeah. As does Skeleton Army. Yeah. Skeleton Army just went from like a 5x multiple to like a 7x multiple. Yeah, Skeleton Army. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, so there's some interesting outcomes. Yeah. I think that's going to have huge ripple effects. A lot of decks are going to have to consider whether or not now they want to spend 2 elixir on Goblins or Spear Goblins or 3 on something like Guards or Ice Wizard.
Absolutely. And the last 2 on the list are Cannon and Tesla. Cannon hit points decreased by 8%. Tesla hit points increased by 8%. That's interesting because Cannon, I'm sure, gets a lot more than 16% more gameplay than the Tesla right now. So I think it should put them back in line a bit defensively. What are your thoughts? Obviously, Cannon is is the main counter to one of the main counters to Royal Giant and Hogs. So it will affect them a bit as well.
Yeah, what's interesting to me is that after the last nerf, the one a month ago, Tesla had everything higher than Cannon. Like, it had more damage, more hit points, more whatever, right? For a higher cost. So for the extra elixir, you got more stats and the ability to attack air. And it didn't really change anything. Nobody really started playing Tesla at all. So I kind of like that this is another huge thrust between them to try to get Tesla to be significantly better for the extra elixir cost. But the thing that really hurts Tesla Tower is that Cannon has a 3x3 footprint, which makes it a bigger thing for distracting Hog Riders, which is its main use in the first place.
Yeah, which is exactly. So now those stats, even though Tesla's still on paper going to look a lot better, I think you really nailed it there. The Cannon is like such a better distracting unit inherently, no matter what the stats are.
Tesla can't pull Hog Riders into the position where 2 towers attack it. If they do the jump off the corner, right? Like, they play the Hog Rider against the wall and Hog jump towards the middle. A middle-placed Tesla just gets avoided altogether.
Yeah, you always have to favor with a Tesla. Yeah, you have to, so it'll be interesting. I mean, I'll give it a try for sure, but I think Cannon's still going to service that better distracting role. So
I'm glad they're trying to find a balance, because another thing that is going to help is that Inferno Tower gets a lot more interesting in a world where Lava Hound and P.E.K.K.A are better, and I guess X-bows and mortars and stuff too, right?
Very good point. Yeah.
I like that after this there'll be kind of a clear distinction of like which one you want to use. Tesla has the advantage of being really good against both Princess and Royal Giant because it can't get outranged by those cards. Like it doesn't pop up out of its hidey hole until they walk within its range.
Yeah, very good points there, man. You're definitely. I didn't even think of that, but the Tesla versus Princess and Royal Giant being a better option now. It will be so cool to see what happens here, and I guess before I let you go, I got to get your take on the Royal Giant in general. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people would have predicted if I said, hey, big balance change is coming. What do you think the first one's going to be? I think a lot of people might have guessed Royal Giant, or Sparky for that matter as well. Even though a lot of people don't have him, a lot of people complain about him being OP along with the Royal Giant. So what are your thoughts on nothing at all regarding Royal Giant, and I guess Sparky too, if you have any opinions on that?
I actually think Royal Giant is totally balanced. It's a totally fine card. It costs 6 elixir. It's really slow. It's just a big soak of hit points. If you play something like a mini P.E.K.K.A. against a Royal Giant, the Royal Giant only gets off like 3 shots before dying, and you don't want to spend 6 elixir for 600 damage. That's not a good trade at all. And your opponent just got to spend 2 less elixir and now has a mini P.E.K.K.A. attack.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think it's definitely a powerful card. I mean, there's no doubt about it. A lot of people use it, but I was surprised, Rumham. I actually contacted Supercell, and they were able to share the, some of the stats behind the usage, and I was shocked. We can't share their numbers, but I was shocked to learn that in the top 100 players, the usage rate is really, really low. Like, I was pretty shocked, because I know in Legendary Arena as a whole, it's pretty high relative to some other cards. But to my mind, I was pretty surprised. It looks like the upper echelon, the 1% of the most competitive players are reaching a level where they feel the other types of strategy are just better, or there's too many counters out there. What are your thoughts as far as the upper meta goes?
It's funny is I'm speaking from the perspective of that small percentage. Ash is right. Like the percentage of people playing Royal Giant in the top 100 is really low. I actually play a Royal Giant deck as my big laddering deck, but I'll tell you that the most common things I see are the kind of triangle defense, the Hog, Valkyrie, Elixir Collector, Musketeer, Skeleton, 2-spell deck. That's like the most popular deck in the top 100. And then there's been a lot of those Golem Poison decks. But Royal Giant's just not that popular because a single casting of like Barbs or Mini P.E.K.K.A. completely ruin your push, and it's a terrible trade for the Royal Giant player. So if you play Royal Giant in the top 100, you actually have to have a very tuned Royal Giant deck that is prepared for whatever counter they're going to play and has the answer already on the board. So it's a very tough archetype to play against smart players.
For sure, it will be interesting because every card, even the ones we didn't mention here, will be affected, obviously, and even indirectly by these changes. Because there's certainly a lot of them. As you said, it's one of the bigger balance updates that we've seen so far. Maybe not in terms of sheer cards directly affected, but certainly indirectly, the game's going to be really shaken up. So, Rumham, dude, it's been such a pleasure having you on. You're such a knowledgeable guy. I definitely want to do this again sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to be on the stream anytime. In fact, we can come back when this Prince P.E.K.K.A. Witch deck that we're theorizing about dominates the metagame.
Absolutely, man. Well, dude, where can people find you, and do you have like a schedule? Like, it's the Rumham on Twitch, and when are you generally streaming?
Yeah, check me out on Twitch/TheRumham. I'm also YouTube The Rumham. I stream 3 to 4 times a week, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sunday mornings. I also co-host the Super Magical Cup tournament, which is 12 noon Pacific on Twitch/Super Magical Cup.
Awesome. Well, if people are interested in joining the Super Magical Cup or checking out your stream, I'll include all those links in the description below, guys, so feel free to check them out there. Anything else, Rumham, before we say goodbye?
You know what? I've got high hopes for guards. I think if anything comes out of this patch, I want to see guards get played. I like those 3 little guys.
Well, you heard it there first. Rumham predicts guards OP.
Oh, no.
All right, bye, guys. Nah, I'm joking. I'm just joking, man. Thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me on.
No problem. Take care, man.